Oh, Cassie.
Hi, I'm just trying to settle things really quick with my coworker, so I will be on in just a moment.
Perfect.
Thank you. Hi, thanks.
No problem. How are you?
I've never presented on WOVA, so I'm like, I think I'm doing things right.
Hey, that's what I'm here for, to help too.
Awesome. And what was your name?
Taryn, sorry, I forget
Karen,
that is
that's okay. How are you?
good.
Good.
So let's see. Huva's a little bit different. I mean, we're on Zoom, but Huva has some quirks. Who is going to be presenting the slides?
I will be doing that.
Okay, let's test it out and make sure that we've had some closed captioning issues all day. So,
Okay, let me go ahead. Oops. And share. Let's see, I think I'm just going to do the portion and sound. Okay, so I'm going to move this up here and hopefully get it right on to our presentation and move that down here. Can you see that?
yes,
Okay, cool. I lost you guys for some reason.
that's one of the quirks is
Okay.
you get the advantage or you get the unluckiness of not being able to see much.
Okay, that's fine.
So hover on like the bottom left-hand side.
Of the screen I'm sharing.
Yes.
I see that. And then closed captions.
Yes. And then toggle captions. Perfect. Well, let's see. Cassie, you try talking to see if
Okay. Test. Is it work? It doesn't look like it's working on my end.
I don't see it. And that was one of the other volunteers. She mentioned that they kept testing, and then it finally came.
Okay.
And you can do medium. That typically helps a little bit for size.
Okay. And then I'm gonna just check in on just to make sure this portioning works for all of the screens that I have.
Okay.
I should be fine. And then the recording is going, I see that, does that go to HOVA or DEC and they'll get that to us?
So it's recording in the DEC cloud.
Okay.
And then they're gonna like edit this part out and then they post it back to Huva. So by next week, usually it's like the next day or so, but it'll be available that you can have it.
Okay, great.
And we just had to be patient. There's closed captioning.
Oh, there they are. Okay.
I think we might be breaking Google Slides closed captioning with all this this week.
It looks like they're a little slow though. Or is it just me?
No, it's been like that today. It's not typically that slow, but every volunteer has mentioned that this afternoon.
Okay. And it looks, is it just capturing my voice though?
It is. We've had varying luck with that. So let me see.
Because Mo and Katie will be presenting throughout too.
Okay, so It has to do with your mic settings in the browser. So you would have to stop presenting and check that to see.
Okay. Is that in like Chrome or in Zoom? Chrome, okay. So let me go up to settings if I can figure where that is.
So
I went through and I did all the settings that it suggested on the Whova website.
right. Okay. So on the browser URL bar, there's a webcam icon on the right side.
I'm not seeing that.
Will you share your screen?
Yes.
And if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. We're not going to be late because of this or anything like that. Go to your presentation for me, but don't click present.
Oh, gotcha. Let's see if I find that. Okay, it should be right here. There we go.
Just trying to find. You've allowed it, so. The problem is that there's not that many settings to adjust on this.
Yeah. Am I sharing my screen? I am, okay.
Yeah. I was going through the list that we have that has worked for other people, but.
Okay.
Yeah, you are not the only one, so I am okay with we just won't worry about it too much because there's not a lot we could actually do.
Okay.
Because your settings are correct, so.
Okay.
And then, so do you want, so when you reopen it, you'll have to turn on closed captioning again.
Okay.
And the chat.
Oops.
And
I was going to have Mo and Katie basically do the chat because I did not want to be able to do everything. But I don't know, maybe you want to go through that with them or with Mo at least so that she kind of knows what to do.
And Mo, the only chat is through Whova, so just make sure you can see that and then.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Yeah, definitely was fiddling with it. I was just like, I was looking at the bottom of the wall of the screen. I was like, where's the chat? Where's the chat? And I was like, okay, it's over at the top. I had to go over from question and answers and polls and then chat. So
Yep.
I got it.
So it will probably look different from the slide image that I have, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then participants can, what looks like, they can also unmute and talk as well. So.
Hi, Katie. So we're just having a little trickiness with the closed captioning today. It's picking up my voice and nobody else's.
Oh,
Just to give you a heads up.
okay. I have a question too. Hi, Monique.
Okay.
You want me to hold off?
You can ask.
When I talk about where this falls in that all of that inclusion funding, this isn't from OSPI, right?
Which?
Like the funding from this is not from OSPI.
We're under the same umbrella now as the K through 12, but this one was OSPI, so feel free to share whatever you'd like.
Okay, so there's not that we don't have to be really careful anymore. That's nice.
I don't think so. I mean, at the end, I say thank you to OSPI, but
okay,
I just kept the thank you screen the same. Okay, I'm gonna share this one more time just to make sure I've got my settings. LinkedIn, okay, you can see all that. And I can't see myself when I'm presenting, so just let me know if something looks weird. If that makes sense.
Okay.
I don't know how, but maybe text me.
I was wondering if we send things in the chat, everyone will be able to say it, right? So I might.
Yeah, and I can't see the chat just because I've got my presenter view up. So it's really hard to have all of it up.
Okay.
So Katie, you and Mo are going to do the chat on WOVA. Do you know how to
Okay.
do that?
I do not, but I'll look. I'll figure it out.
I think my computer is freezing. Not good. Not good. All of you are frozen. I can hear you, but you're all frozen.
You're not frozen, which is good, but
Yeah, it's weird. Like all of you are frozen, but
it's been slower today. So I think we're testing the boundaries of Whova and Zoom.
yeah, everybody is still frozen. Maybe I should leave and then hop back on and see if that works.
Sure, we've got 5 minutes.
Okay, let me try that.
And Katie, did you figure out chat or do you want?
Do I need to get out of this Zoom room or do I go to a different link?
So it's basically, are you joined in this through like Zoom or the Whova screen?
I think Zoom.
So for chat, I want you to be on the Whova screen.
Okay.
So I want it to be where you see the presentation and the chat to the right-hand side.
Okay.
Yes.
One second.
So I just turned off my headset to see if that would help.
Okay.
Closed caption. Mo, do you want to say something?
Can you hear me?
No, that didn't help. Okay. Can you still hear me just as well, or was it better with the headset?
Probably better with the headset.
Thanks for your help, Karen.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it very much. The construction is very intense across the street this morning, so I apologize. Not only are they doing construction to the right, they just started demolition to the left, and it's like 7 on the dot every morning. So fun. So I apologize in advance if any loud booms happen when I'm presenting.
That's all.
Yeah.
Cassie, now you're echoing.
I am. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Not on mine. I think Zoom is like exhausted too. I think even Zoom is suffering a little bit of trauma at this point. It's fine.
Okay. Cassie,
Working better?
yes.
Okay. I feel like when I put my headset, turn it on before I open the meeting, it works better. And so sometimes it just maybe takes a minute.
I'm always like, okay, make sure it's on before I
Yeah,
click the button. But you sound fine now. So
Okay.
whatever you did.
awesome. Katie, were you able to find the
Yes.
that? Okay. So it'll probably look different from the image on the slide that we have, but that's okay.
Okay.
Because I just have the Zoom image. like that. So does it look different from that?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder if I should just take that off really quickly. Maybe I will do that. Hold on, give me a sec. Oops.
And I will be admitting people as they come in, but if you see it and I miss it, you feel free to click admit.
Sounds good.
Are we in that mode where everybody is like there, but we can't see them, but they can see us type thing?
Nope.
We can see everybody.
So I have not let anyone else in, so they cannot see us.
Okay.
Okay, cool. When it goes on, can we see them, their image?
If they choose to.
Oh, okay. So it's a few, yeah, no, I thought it was like presenter view where we only see the presenter, like the presenters and
No,
okay.
you'll be able to see the other people, so.
Okay, that works too.
That's
So
more
at least you'll
fun.
be able to see their names,
Oh, okay.
so that'll be nice.
How many
That
people
sounds
do we
good.
have so far?
We have 8 in the waiting room.
Okay.
It says 9, I'm one of them, so I don't count myself, so.
I think we had 51 register or whatever it was, sign up.
We won now, so.
So we'll see. But I do kind of want to start more on time than late, just because we have a lot of content.
Okay, so go ahead and share, and I will
Okay.
start letting people in then.
I will
Awesome.
do that. Let me figure myself out here. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Now, I cannot see your lovely faces, but I'm sure you are all filtering in just wonderfully. And we are going to go ahead and get started in the interest of time. So let's get going. Welcome to the Inclusive Practices in Washington State Preschool Inclusion Demonstration Sites presentation today. We're going to all introduce ourselves. So I'll start. My name is Cassie Borges, and I work at the UW Herring Center as an inclusion specialist and lead for the Preschool Demonstration Sites project. Mo, why don't you go ahead and go?
I am Monique Worthy. I am an inclusion specialist at the UW Herring Center, also working with OSPI.
Hi everyone, my name is Kathy Bateman, and I am a research scientist at the University of Washington and at the Herring Center for Inclusive Education.
Great, thank you. And I just want to go ahead and let people know that the closed captioning is working for my voice, but nobody else's. So we're just going to do our best with that. And we will continue on from here. So I just want to go ahead and put this out for everybody. As we go through this webinar, please keep this webinar etiquette in mind. We encourage a growth mindset where you're open to thinking about new ideas and willing to push yourself to grow. Thank you for joining us today and for being present, positive, and engaged. All right, let's use the chat function today. I can't see the chat, but Mo and Katie are going to do their best to keep up with everybody and questions and comments. So let's go ahead and practice. Please go ahead and take a minute to share your name, where you're from, any impact that you hope to have from today's webinar in your school's district or inclusionary practices. As a friendly reminder, if you do have questions, you can put them in the chat as well. We'll do our best to monitor and respond to those. And you are also welcome to email us. We will make sure to have those in the end. And we will go ahead and keep going just in the interest of time, but thank you for participating and welcome. So these are our mission objectives or session objectives for today. And basically what we want to do is show what we've accomplished in these 4 sites in Washington State, these preschool sites that are working towards a wonderfully inclusive practice, and how we have supported them and helped connect them to other places, and what we want to do kind of as our next steps and future steps for inclusion. And this is our agenda for today. We will be switching back to our website throughout. So I just want to make sure that you have access to those products that we have available on the website. They are there and available for anybody to use and disseminate, and we strongly encourage that. So we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about inclusion and what we are doing, and then talk more in depth about what we did this last year with webinars, audio stories, open houses, virtual visits, tip sheets, and then go in a little bit more to professional development and professional networking. And this is our team that we have currently at the UW Herring Center for our IPP demonstration sites. So I just wanted to put some names and faces out there for you in case you wanted to reach out to anybody. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Katie.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So while I am not on that beautiful slide of beautiful people, I started working on this project at the very beginning and then passed it off to Cassie and Monique. So that is who I am if you're wondering, like, gosh, who is she? So we are going to dive in and talk a little bit about inclusion in Washington State. So our Constitution acknowledges that it is our duty of the state to make ample provision for the education of all children within its borders without distinction or preference on account of race, color, caste, or sex. So when we think about inclusion in our state, we think of it as a set of strategies, as not a set of strategies or a placement issue. We think of it as a cultural change, and that it really means belonging to a community, a group of friends, a school community, or a neighborhood. So when we think of inclusion, we're thinking, not only are we thinking about how do we put students with disabilities in classrooms where they are succeeding academically, but also that they are an active member of their community. We have acknowledged that we know that when we put students with and without disabilities in classrooms together without smart instruction and without meaningful evidence-based practices to teach these two different populations to engage in each other, we have tons of research that shows us they'll continue to not have that interaction and that engagement within each other. And it inhibits us from all being active members of our community. So we are really focused at the Herring Center for Inclusive Education, and within this project that I'm so excited for you all to learn about, to think about inclusion and the definition of thinking about when everyone is valued, engaged, and feeling connected. So in this project was developed to provide educators from around the state with the opportunity to really see practices in action. Cassie, can you go to the next slide? Thank you, sorry. So we really wanted to think about, gosh, what schools and preschools across the state are doing awesome things that we want to highlight and then showcase and share to other schools across the state. So it created an opportunity for some of these sites that were doing really great inclusive practices to share what they were doing, observe other inclusionary practices in action, meet with other teams, collect some resources and artifacts that aid in that systems change of moving along the journey of implementing inclusion, and to learn how to implement some of these practices that maybe they were thinking, gosh, we've got this inclusionary practice down, but we want to work on this one. And then our trajectory moving forward to be more inclusive as a preschool or as a school site. So we were able to choose some preschools across the state. And I'm going to talk a little bit about where that funding came from in a minute. But so we had the opportunity to really think about 4 model demonstration sites that had some great inclusionary practices occurring within the state. And they were in different ESDs. And I know we'll dive into those a little bit more in depth. But we really tried to identify different schools that were doing different inclusionary practices to highlight the practices that are occurring and the diversity in our state. So our schools that we chose are quite different in their demographics, where they're located. And so you'll get to learn a little bit more about that too. So in this project, these schools will work together and partner and collaborate with Herring Center inclusionary specialists like Cassie and Monique and some of the other wonderful people on this team. and they'll host and showcase some of the practices that they're doing and serve as a model demonstration site. So we're hoping that these schools serve as hubs for the awesome practices that we're doing, and then all of the schools around them in their community can go to them for more help and more training, and we can learn from each other. So by sharing these practices and having these demonstration sites open their doors while virtually in the last couple of years to other school sites and teachers and administrators and families, it allows visitors to see best practices in action and then apply them in their own schools. So at the same time, our demonstration sites are continuing to grow as they're demonstrating these practices that they're doing, and they're increasing their implementation of inclusive cultures and refining their practices that contribute to equitable learning for all students. So this is a visual that kind of shows where this funding came from. So to help improve our schools' ability to be more inclusive in the state legislature provided the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction with $25 million in 2019. And that was allocated to different areas and different organizations to support inclusion. And we really had this emphasis on coaching and mentoring. So as part of that Inclusionary Practices Project, OSPI partnered with the Herring Center for Inclusive Education. So in that 3 box, the teal box, you can see University of Washington, to create 16 demonstration sites. And we did that in K through 12. So we did that highlighting the best practices in inclusive education all across the state. And then in year 2, we were able to expand, and we expanded our demonstration site work to preschool. So that is where our funding came from, is after we did K through 12, we were able to get some funding for preschool. So we have selected 4 preschools, which I know we'll talk about, and they will receive mentoring and coaching and teaching on inclusive practices to increase their capacity to meet the needs of all students, regardless of their ability or background. Thank you, Cassie, you're on it. So in our work, there are some founding principles that drive our model demonstration sites work. To start, in every school, there are things that are going well. So we, I think in education, have a tendency to really think about what's going wrong first, instead of acknowledging the things that we're doing that are going well. And so we have used this strength-based, assess-based approach to push our practices. And instead of examining what's going wrong, we're really focusing on examining what's going well and why it's working, and how do we think about using that and making things better. So we use this because we believe it's a productive way for schools to leverage their own strengths and to become more inclusive. We also know that inclusion is not a special education initiative, and that it's a cultural initiative. And that if we simply change the way we deliver special education services without really considering and thinking about the culture of the school and how all students engage in teaching and learning, we're never going to see some of those changes that we really want to see true impact on student learning. So through the course of our work and our webinars, we have learned all about some of the extraordinary work that is happening across these demonstration sites. I think what's really awesome and exciting about this project is that whether these schools are implementing 1 or 2 inclusionary practices, or 6 or 7, or they're on year 1 of their journey or year 6, they all have plans for continuous improvement. So all of our schools are really acknowledging that this is where we are, but we have such a trajectory of things that we want to do moving forward. Our schools really work to identify and recognize that as they have new students and scholars that enter their building and they collect more information about the best way that students learn, that professional practices also need to change and reflect that, and see that, so that we can see that in our learning. Our demonstration sites also know that engaging stakeholders in the reform process is a critical component of making and sustaining that change, and that when stakeholders are involved, there is a higher likelihood that schools will adapt and implement some of these awesome inclusionary practices. Our sites demonstrate close partnerships between school leaders and teachers by really engaging in true distributive leadership and learning and making decisions and moving forward, working together. We know that there are systems in place in some districts and not in others, but learning how some of these sites have implemented high leverage moves can have wide-reaching benefits. So you will notice the demonstration site school leaders are involved in a lot of the work that we're doing. But we also always want to acknowledge too that we can find other ways and be really adaptive to make some of these practices that we're working on flexible and make them meet the needs of each individual school that we're working with. So for more, if you are looking for more information specifically to the logistics of this project and the goals and the aims, we do have a website that I know Cassie will reference throughout this, and we can put it in the chat box. But if you are interested in learning more about the background and the introduction, feel free to jump on that. And there's a recording that goes a little bit deeper into our goals and our mission and our vision of our work that helps us foster and promote inclusion across Washington State. Awesome.
Thank you. Perfect. So I get the wonderful pleasure of discussing our preschool partners, who I absolutely adore for all their hard work. So pretty much the Herring Center, we have partnerships with the preschools, with the Office of Public Instruction, and we recruited applications for our first cohort of the IPP partner preschool demonstration sites. So the purpose of these sites were to work with other school teams across the state to increase the capacity of schools to meet the needs of all students, regardless of their ability or background. So the first school that I would like to talk about is Edwin Pratt Early Learning Center in Shoreline, Washington. It was the ESD number 121, I believe. So Edwin Pratt is a high quality learning center, and their experience is to preschool age students while prioritizing underserved population, inclusive learning, culturally responsive teaching, and partnerships for all family. One of their biggest inclusionary practices, which I really, really love and respect, is the fact that they shifted their mission and vision to actually reflect that they end up getting a new facility that was all inclusive to address the needs of all their students. And so with that same shift of their environment, they wanted to make sure that their mindset matched that. And that was one of the things that I really loved and admired about them. They have students with IEPs who have classroom-based services and are in general education classrooms. So over the past 13 years, the Shoreline School District included typically developing peers in classrooms led by special education teachers, made by the changes of the Head Start classrooms in the same wing as the special education preschool classrooms, and piloted classrooms blending students with IEPs and Head Start, or students of the Children's Center, which is a district tuition-based program for students. So now they have a learning center that has a culture of belonging for all students. So all children are now all our students. It's not just special ed students and gen students. They have a culture of thinking of all their children as being our students and not specifically, but they also specialize now in the pyramid model and also supporting multi-tier systems of support for their students. And then another one is Hood Canal in Hood Canal, Washington. I always think that's funny, that's Hood Canal and Hood Canal. They're ESD number 113. Hood Canal is located on the Skohomish tribal land, and they are making amazing steps to trying to address the systemic and historical traumas and bringing them in. They focus highly on their social, emotional, and cultural needs of their students, which is great, especially with the way of the world. I think addressing the social, emotional learning aspect is huge right now. As an educational team, they are working very hard to create meaningful learning opportunities for students with different motivations of learning, addressing their different strengths and challenges, and individualizing their different goals. One of the main inclusive practices that they're really focusing on is UDL, which is Universal Design for Learning, through multiple means of representation, action and expression and engagement. They plan for multiple means of repetition in their instruction, which means they acknowledge that their students have a preference in how they acquire new information, which is important. They also encourage students to demonstrate their knowledge in different ways, not just assuming that there's one way that children are going to express what they know and how they know, but also providing opportunities for them to do that on their own and giving them a sense of independence in their learning structure as well. They are focusing directly on implementing learning opportunities that include all the aspects of UDL. There are 3, but you can look further than that when Cassie goes into where you can find that information. And they work together consistently to acknowledge how students engage and how they can continuously promote that and optimize individual choice and self-sufficiency, relevancy, value, and authenticity. Thank you. And we have Kodiak Cubs Preschool in Leavenworth. They are ESD 171. So Kodiak Cubs aims to utilize a variety of techniques in their early childhood program that center around inclusionary practices and meeting all the needs of their children in their program. One of their amazing programs they have is a CTE program that Lindsay likes to call the big kids, where they bring high school students into the classroom and pretty much show preschool kids that older kids are doing this too. And it's kind of like, when I think about this program, I think about a seed being planted and then a plant showing that seed that they can grow too, which is really great. But they offer instruction through play, modeling, and engaging in meaningful activities. They model the special education students in their classrooms get the opportunity to engage in all the programs. They're not excluded, which is awesome. But what I really love about what Kodiak Cubs does is that they are not only focusing on the preschoolers, but when they bring the high schoolers in, they're actually allowed to express themselves as well. They get to bring in what they're interested in and actually share that with the preschoolers. And that's huge because it's being that role model. And if we're looking to be more inclusive, we actually have to show that and model that. And it's like a continuous process that they're doing within their program. They also focus a lot on family communication partnerships, flexible service delivery, making sure that they are addressing the needs and culture of everyone in their program. And it is just amazing the work that they are doing there.
And I'm going to jump in though really quick and add that this year they're going to also partner with the middle school sign language program. So they're going to have students come in and teach some sign language and read to the students one-on-one, the preschoolers, which is really awesome.
Thank you, Cassie. And then last but not least, we have Robert Lentz Early Learning Center in Selah, Washington. They are ESD 105. So at Robert Lentz, they have provided numerous inclusive strategies in their program. Very proud of the work that they're doing there. The district is now providing inclusive classroom settings through braided funding approach and using tuition, special education, and ECAP funding all together to pretty much support what they are doing. As a result of their classrooms in this braiding fund approach, the Early Learning Center is offering bilingual programming as an extension of the district's bilingual program. So students that are dual language speaking spend half of the day learning in their native tongue, pretty much. So they're not just necessarily learning in English, which just shows the cultural responsiveness to knowing that this child needs support in this way, but it also helps on both ends because now students are also learning another language at the same time. So they're thinking about the whole child, their whole set of students, which is amazing. They also worked on, through their pre-K inclusion grant, they also worked on strengthening their MTSS protocols to support differentiated instructions for students with needs. As a team, they developed the understanding of UDL, and then instructional focus would shift from UDL from differentiated instruction. They also took time to actually collaborate with their team members and actually look at their environment together and create their own list of UDL checklists to pretty much give them accountability on the things that they see and they need to change, which is awesome because they're working together and making sure that everybody is on the same page, but they're also taking accountability to the things that they see with themselves and they know that they need to change, which I think that is awesome when we're thinking about that mind shift change into it and to inclusion. So they are just taking that extra step. They also hold a numerous amount of cultural activities for their students and families, and they include them and allow them to show their culture and share their culture with the school in different ways. If it's dance, if it's art, and they also pull other families in together, and it's just been amazing to work with them. I really, really encourage you to look into the deep dives with Cassie. We'll get into that, but it's just really exciting. Very, very, very exciting. And some other things that they're doing, they're focusing on their cultural responsiveness, which I think they're doing an amazing job on. They're creating PLCs that include inclusive viewpoints, and they're also working on their MTSS as well. So now I gave you a few ideas of inclusionary practices that are being demonstrated amazingly in our preschool partner sites. I would love to hear about some inclusionary practices that you are using in your school. And more often than not, inclusionary practices are, at least for me, I can say, is that I have been doing them when I was in the classroom for years and had no idea that there was a name for it. It just felt like a staple for myself. So there are ideas, even if you haven't done any, or if you don't know if you're doing any, I would love to know which ones you might be interested in, or if any of them inspired you. It would be great to know, so you can use the chat, and if they pop in, Katie, feel free to let me know and I can call a few of them out. But so if you look at this picture here, the inclusionary practices that are in yellow are the ones that are preschool. Our preschools are demonstrating. I am very inspired by this because it just lets me know where the mind shift of these schools are going, which is great for me. It's really encouraging for me as a person of color to think that they're thinking about culturally responsive pedagogy and universal design for learning, family and community partnerships, and social emotional learning, which I think everybody needs to be addressed a little bit more delicately just because of the way of the world. So I appreciate you all being here and wanting to learn more about what we're doing. Thank you. All right, Cassie, skip over, please. So, sorry, Cassie. So just, sorry, Cassie, it's like my computer isn't. So I'm gonna pass to Cassie, but if you want more information, please look at our website, we're ippdemosites.org. There's a lot of information in there. Deep dives, there's initial webinars just to get to know them. I think they're really great. They have a lot of information. It's literally step by step, and all of our partners are more than willing to talk to you about what they have been doing in their programs. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Katie and Mo, for sharing. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Is everybody hearing okay? If not, just let me know verbally because I can't see faces. So just let me know. I am going to go ahead and take a few minutes to jump over to our website. So I have my screen kind of zoomed in a little bit for the presentation, but you can still see most of our content here. This is our homepage, and it talks a little bit more about the project. I'm going to jump back to this just a few times throughout the presentation to show you where there's a little bit more information. But this is that ippdemosites.org page, so feel free to check that out. So here we go back to the presentation. And next, we're going to talk a little bit more about the requirements and the process of what we engaged in this past year with our first cohort. So the initial process, as Katie discussed a little bit, was the recruitment. So there was a letter sent out to several schools across the state of Washington to ask for if anybody was interested in participating and being one of our demonstration sites. 9 schools applied and 4 were chosen. This was our process in which we did decide which teams or which groups would be considered for this. And so we looked at the overall landscape, the goals, and the mission, inclusionary practices, future plans. We met as a team. This was before I joined in, but this was the kind of the process and what happened. Decisions were made and then letters were sent out. And so this was quite a grueling process from what I heard, just to make sure that we had the people that we thought could represent inclusionary practices the best in this initial cohort. And then hopefully from here on out, we can kind of bring in some people that are new to inclusion too and help guide them in their journey. So these were some requirements that were presented to people within the first cohort, making sure that we were planning a few visits and or webinars. And of course, with COVID, it all became virtual, which was actually worked out pretty well because we were able to access schools and have schools access other individuals that they may not have been able to in person. So it was, kind of a wonderful thing in the end. We wanted to make sure that we engaged in professional learning activities to better support the visitors and the preschoolers, or the preschools in general. Continuous partnership with UW Herring Center and inclusionary specialists to make sure that we were highlighting their systems of change and inclusion. And then we also provided feedback and reflections, or they provided feedback and reflections to us to see what we could do in the following year, this year, to improve our help and our support in this inclusionary journey. So one of the processes or projects that we did within this group was to do the webinar series. So we did an introductory webinar for all of our demonstration sites. We actually have preschool through 12 introductory webinars on our website. And what this did was it kind of just let everybody know who they were, where they were, what they were doing in their schools. We used planning documents to get these prepared, helped the schools and support them in their process of developing the content, practicing with them. We usually had 1.5 hour meetings to go into really good depth on and feedback on how it was going and what they were doing, and make sure that really they were putting their best foot forward and showing the practices that they already have in place. Then we did the presentation, and it was a live webinar that we also recorded and have on our website. We provided a survey so that we could get some feedback to help make them better for the future, and debriefed with our partners to make sure that, we told them how wonderful they were. The next project that we did was a deep dive webinar. So this went a little bit deeper into the inclusionary practices that our schools have in place. So the Edwin Pratt Early Learning Center focused on their mission and vision. If this is something that you're working on, I highly recommend that you check this out, because they give not only a great concept of what they did, but they give a lot of artifacts as well, and information on what made their mission and vision development successful. One of the big key takeaways was snacks. As everybody got together in the group that was developing it, they provided several snacks, and that was key to kind of moving the process along and making everybody feel, good throughout the whole thing. Kodiak Cubs presented on their CTE program, or the Big Kids as she calls them. And this is a really in-depth presentation on how she and her colleagues put together this project and work with the high schoolers. They are lucky enough to be housed in a location where it's really easy for high schoolers to join in to their classrooms. So that was definitely a big factor in making her program successful, but it shouldn't be a barrier for anybody. And so I really appreciate the way that she talks about the whole process and what has come from it. So if that's something you're interested in, we have our webinar on our IPP demo sites website. The next was Hood Canal Preschool, and they did two. They did one on UDL as well as SEL. And I really appreciate the fact that there are definitely differences between preschool and K through 12 in terms of the inclusionary practices that are presented. And Kathy at Hood Canal does a really wonderful job of not only talking about what UDL, Universal Design for Learning, and SEL, Social Emotional Learning, are, but also giving so many ideas and artifacts and concrete ways for people to start using these concepts in their classroom, even tomorrow, with a little bit of planning in place. Robert Lintz Early Learning Center did their deep dive webinar on MTSS, which is multi-tiered systems of support and visible learning. And they have a wealth of resources that they provided in artifacts and examples to be able to showcase what they're doing. So I'm going to move on here. Another concept that we utilized in terms of dissemination, getting all the information out about inclusionary practices that our schools were using, these 4 schools, is that we did an open house. Of course, because of COVID again, we were able to do these virtually. So these were 90 to 120-minute virtual open house visits. And they gave a really great opportunity for schools and communities to ask questions, see what it looked like. You know, there were a couple of them where we did a kind of a virtual tour throughout the school or presented classroom activities that were being done. And it was a really neat way to see some of the practices in action and get access to more information one-on-one from the schools. And another one we did was the virtual visits. So this was similar to the open house in terms of it being an open conversation, but in this one, we actually have people register for virtual visits. So it's more of a one-on-one meeting. And what happens with this process is that, you, if you're interested, are welcome to go on to the request form that's there in the bottom and fill out a request. And what this does is it sends it back to me and I get to go through it and see what inclusionary practices you're interested in and which partner I should reach out to see if they're welcome to have a visit. And then I set you up with the partner one-on-one in these meetings. Sometimes it's a few schools with one of our demonstration sites, and it's just a big open meeting to talk about inclusionary practices, what you're doing, how you can improve, and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over to our website here and show you where these are. So if you were to click under the presentations webinar, we've got the intros right here, the deep dives that go a little bit further and in depth. We've got our open houses here, and this is our virtual visit form down here at the bottom. And I'm just going to jump over and show you what it looks like. So basically, you're just going to fill this information out if you're interested in learning more about one of our demonstration sites, and it'll bump back to me and I'll be able to connect to everybody. We've had some really fantastic meetings this last year that have allowed us to really share a wealth of information and get that professional relationship going so that we can spread inclusionary practices throughout the state. All right, another thing or process or whatever you want to call it that we did were audio stories. And this was actually quite an in-depth process for the Herring Center. So we knew that telling stories for our demonstration sites was going to be a really critical part of the work. So over the summer last year, they focused on the storytelling concept with Gabriel Spritzer, which is an award-winning NPR journalist. And he worked with the demonstration sites to talk more about how effectively they can tell their story. And we put some stories together, tried to cut through the noise and emphasize the really human aspect of it. Some of the essential questions that we asked are, who is the story about? Who are your main characters? Why should we care? What's the tension or problem being solved? What are or were the turning points? What kind of story is this? Is it overcoming obstacles? Is it solving a mystery? Is it seeing something differently or unexpectedly? And how did whatever the story is about affect you personally, or how did it make you feel? And these stories are available also on our website. And I strongly encourage you to listen to a few of them, just because it gives you more of that, again, like I said, human aspect of, what is going on for these sites and for these individuals. And so I think they're only usually less than 10 minutes. I think most of them, we tried to get them a little bit shorter so that it was a little easier to listen to, but there are some really wonderful, impactful stories that are available on our website there. Another wonderful artifact that we were able to develop are called tip sheets. And this is a really great resource for anybody, Again, it's available on our website, free of charge, of course. And I'm just going to jump over, well, I'm going to show you this first to show you kind of the wealth of knowledge that is available, and we are adding more and more every day. I know in the background right now, we're working on a UDL tip sheet for circle time specifically in preschool, kind of with a preschool lens. And we are working on braided funding tip sheet to talk more about how that process can happen or how it has happened previously and how you might be able to use it in your program. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over again to our website. So we're at the home here, and you're just going to go ahead and go into resources, and tip sheets are right there. So we've got a whole list of them. And within this is also not just the tip sheet itself, but a video where we demonstrate, what the tip sheet means and give you a case study from one of our demonstration sites to talk more about it. So that's a really great artifact that you're welcome to take with you today. Next, I wanted to talk a little bit about professional development. So not only was this project about dissemination of this information and getting the word out that inclusion is necessary and something that we can all do, we also wanted to help provide professional development to our sites and help them feel supported. So what we do for professional development is really open-ended, and it's driven by the needs of the sites and based on the needs of the community. So each of our professional development for the different sites was very different. These are just some of the professional development series that we did. So with one of our sites, we did the UDL practices, and we helped them come up with their own kind of a checklist or fidelity checklist on UDL practices to make sure that if they were to walk around the school with their checklist, they'd be able to see or identify these aspects taking place. And if they weren't, what could they do to change that? And then we also used the CAST website, which talks a lot more about UDL or Universal Design for Learning. And we prepared kind of a more in-depth look at what that is. In this series, we made sure that the whole program and all of the teachers working in the classroom, paraprofessionals, anybody working with students understood the concepts of UDL. We wanted to make sure that the differences between UDL and differentiation were identified. We had interactive identification of UDLs in the strategies, which was a really fun fun professional development series where we identified with just a picture in a classroom things that could qualify as UDL strategies that would be beneficial in any classroom, as well as classrooms that are specifically using the students in their classroom, which is what UDL really focuses on. We talked about UDL lesson planning, teaming and collaboration, again, developing those checklists, and gave time for reflection. And the effects of this professional development through anecdotal data suggest that there was an increased understanding of roles and expectations, teaming, which was really important because in some of our programs, people kind of put themselves in their own boxes, like I'm just a paraeducator or I am just an occupational therapist. And we wanted everybody to understand that we are all, should all be involved in the teaming process and developing these strategies in the classroom together. Another professional development series we did was with the CTE project that we talked about, where the high schoolers are coming into the classroom at Kodiak Cubs. We actually got one of our UW behavior analysis students to come together with us and develop a series where we talked with the students remotely about behavior. So what is behavior? What are the functions of behavior? We discussed how to collect data in the classroom and then what to do with that data, right? How to make it effective. We really focused on antecedent strategies and positive behavior supports, using behavioral momentum and what that is. So using kind of those easier tasks first before we get into the harder ones. Instituting a really good foundation and growth mindset. So knowing that, you're there to learn and it's okay to make mistakes along the way. Collaboration and how important that is in the classroom, and making sure that we close that teaching loop. Anecdotal data from this series suggested that the environmental changes made in the classroom were based on data collection and analysis, and students were more purposeful and effective in the classroom with the strategies that they were given. Another series that we did was a coaches cafe, which was super fun because we got to meet with the coaches that are working one-on-one with the educators and the teams. And we got to talk a little bit more about what their job was as a coach, what the why was behind it, and this was really developed with the school based on their needs. They saw that the coaches had been teachers and were ready to step up to this new position, but didn't know exactly how to do that. So in order to help them prepare a little bit more, we used this circle talk concept where everybody has a voice and is able to share that voice with the group. And we talked about roles and responsibilities, trust, learning styles, how to give feedback, how to facilitate or talk about, what's being used, the concept of no superheroes. So the coaches sometimes would want to jump in and just take over, but how do we stand back and give guidance rather than taking over? And time management, which is a really critical for them. We did before and after surveys, and it was a really nice process to see that the surveys reflected the change in understanding of the concepts of coaching. And we were able to share a lot of resources with them through that as well. Another professional development series we did was culturally responsive teaching. And these are just some of the areas that highlight some of those culturally responsive teaching strategies that our preschool partners are utilizing. And we really understand that inclusion is a cultural responsive and inclusion and cultural responsiveness go hand in hand. And we had the pleasure of being partnered with some great preschools who are already using a lot of these cultural strategies in the classroom through some of these ideas. So one thing that really comes to mind for me in terms of this is a lot of that family partnership and learning about the communities around you. And Hood Canal in particular does a really great job with their CCLC, which is their Caregivers Community Learning Circle, where they focus on in-person, on the whole person, and in-person meetings. They work to develop an understanding of the child's age and stage of development, behaviors, neuroscience, and psychology. In addition, the teams work to develop an understanding of their own behaviors around children. And this is all with the community, which is just such a wonderful thing. And they also talk a lot about how their behaviors affect the children and how to address mindfulness and self-awareness, which is really wonderful. Edwin Pratt, through their mission and vision, they show a wonderful understanding of how to ensure that they are addressing the needs of all students. And they look back at that mission and vision when they're making choices that are going to impact the school to make sure, again, that they're focusing on the real why for them, which is included in that mission and vision. Robert Lintz has a wonderful bilingual program and an art grant that they have been engaged in that shows this cultural responsive teaching or pedagogy. And in this program, the students who speak the first language, like Mo kind of said, have the opportunity to also learn in their native language of Spanish 20% of the day, which is really great. And then the arts grant, I know with that they did an arts night and a community night, which they brought the whole community together and helped to share some of the cultures that are represented in their community. And the Kodiak Cubs, again, with that CTE project that they're doing or program, the big kids are really modeling for the younger kids, what it is to be a responsive and respectful individual. They come in with their own cultures and they're able to share a little bit of themselves with the students, which is hugely beneficial. And Lindsay even acknowledged that, the teacher, she said, I'm a white woman coming into this classroom and that's the perspective that I bring. So having these high schoolers come in with their own personal experiences and perspectives is hugely beneficial to making sure that we have an inclusive classroom. So those are some wonderful things that we've identified and kind of helped to continue with professional development strategies. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about professional networking. A big part of what we did was also connecting the schools to each other, the partners that we had, but also to everybody else through those webinars and virtual visits. But there was also a concept of the meeting of the minds. And this is, the overall objective of this collaboration or this meeting was to understand that inclusion is a staple, it's not a practice. And by connecting these schools, we were creating opportunities for collaboration and providing a different lens and perspective for this partnership. So this is a really awesome opportunity for professionals to come together and talk about specific topics. We are opening up the meeting of the minds to any professionals, even outside of our 4 preschool programs. So I will go ahead and get that information to you a few minutes later in this presentation. And this is just a little data to show our professional networking and what we were able to accomplish last year. The graph on the left is the baseline for preschools. So based on surveys, this was identified as, what schools have you communicated with to learn about inclusionary practices? And you can see by the dots that there's Robert Lentz and Edward Pratt, Kodiak Cubs at Pierre and Hood Canal had 0, but a few other people had maybe 1 or 2 reaching out or somebody reaching into them. And then just at midpoint last year, you can see the vast improvement that we had within this professional collaboration. So if you want to find more information about this data that we collected or see the results of the preschool through 12 program, you're welcome to check it out on our website. All right, so what is next? So that was all kind of things that we did last year and we're going to continue to work on this year. But in addition to some of that, we do want to make sure that we're continuing the support for our 4 preschools, as well as for any other preschools that want to learn more about inclusion and strategies. We're going to work on MTSS this year with some of our sites and UDL strategies. We really want to focus on those community partnerships. I know Hood Canal is going to be working on a SIBS shop this year, which is really fantastic to get the siblings and the family involvement. And we want to help them to continue their caregivers community learning circle. Family partnerships also with Kodiak Cubs. They're really hoping to do a family night because they've identified just through COVID and being remote that families have a lot of questions and they are really wanting to engage those families in those questions and learning. We are also going to continue to disseminate this awesome information and more. So we are hoping to have a series called Inclusion in Action. This will probably take part in December and it should be in webinar format, but we're going to have more information on our website about that. Hood Canal, we're hoping to have a family partnership discussion with a member of the local tribe and the teacher there and talk a little bit more in depth about that family partnership and how it's working for them. And then through Kodiak Cubs, so far we have planned a webinar where we have more student voice from that CTE collaboration. And so that would be a really neat thing to look at from a student's perspective. Other things we're working on right now is an inclusion framework tool that will be implemented this year to test it out to see how it's going. We're looking really in depth at relationships, equity, and instruction in inclusive classrooms and programs. And once we see how the data works, we'll be happy to disseminate this to anybody to kind of use as a tool to see where are we and where can we go. And then we also want to offer district-wide supports this year. So we want to be able to identify the right drivers in each district to increase the capacity for inclusion and provide support with the end goal of a sustainable inclusive structure. So these are some opportunities to be involved this year with our project. You're welcome to join in the virtual visits, fill out that form, and I'll connect you with one of our partners. We will have some open houses. We just don't have any planned as of yet, but we're getting there, kind of letting everybody settle into the new year. We have the meeting of the minds available. So with this link here, you can hop over to what looks like this in our meeting registration. You can choose which meeting you want to attend, give us your information, and we'll be able to send out that information to you. And the inclusion in action hopefully will take place, I'm thinking around December, so we're still planning that, but keep an eye on our website to find out more information. And again, there's our website information and address. We have some testimonials, but I'm not sure that we'll have enough time for all of them. So I do want to play just one of them for you. And
Good morning,
there it is.
everyone. I'm Stephanie Andler, and I am coming in from Robert Lentz. And I just want to say the biggest takeaway from the Demo Sites project has hands down been the support from our inclusion specialists, Cassie and Mo. They've been amazing. And just being able to collaborate with other centers, to be able to gather feedback, gain confidence from what we've implemented for inclusion has been amazing. I think without the Demo Sites project, we wouldn't be able to learn and collaborate with others, and also to be able to help others has been really cool too in our journey. Even though we're young in our journey, being able to turn around and help the next person has been amazing, because so many people have done the same for us. So thank you. And I would say the biggest impact the project has had on our community and district is just helping us build momentum and that support for going deeper with our inclusionary practices. We've been able to implement a lot of new systems, gather feedback, and have ongoing and regular PD to keep the best practices at the forefront of our minds. We've been able to craft systematic approaches to inclusion with the feedback of experts and people that have gone before us, and with the support of agencies around the state, including UW and Herring Center. So I can't thank you enough for the opportunity for Robert Lentz to be a part of this. It's been an amazing experience. Thank you again. Good morning, everyone. I'm Stephanie Ann.
There we go. So that's just a little presentation from Stephanie. We have some other testimonials that are great that show that our sites are really loving this project and loving being able to reach out to others, and that's what we want. So if you, again, want to learn more about this IPP Demonstration Sites project, feel free to check out our website. You can also email us at uwdemosites@uw.edu. Unfortunately, Eileen Schwartz was not able to join us today, but her information is there if you wanted to reach out to her, and this is all of our information. Feel free to reach out with any questions, comments, interest would be wonderful. And then I just want to shout out a little thank you to all of our partners. Without this partnership, the amazing work that we've been doing couldn't be possible. I'm going to jump over lastly to questions, and I'm going to stop sharing so that I can finally see everybody. Yay, there you are. So does anybody have any questions or comments or anything that they would like to share with us today? We have about 4 minutes left. And I can't see the chat. Was there anything in the chat, Katie or Mo, that we needed to address? No, good.
No.
Oh man, I thought I was going to see a lot more faces. Feel free to jump on if you'd like to. And Mo or Katie, do you have anything else that you want to add about this presentation or about the project?
No, I did put in the chat box just that when we received this funding, it was pre-COVID. And so we had all these plans to do so much of this in person, and planned funding to support so many of these schools actually traveling to a lot of these sites. So we pivoted quite a lot to use Zoom, as all of us did in all of our lives during that time. But I do think, I wrote a comment in the chat that I do think by doing so many of these webinars and things remotely, it increased access and removed a lot of barriers for travel. So even moving forward, hopefully one day in a post-COVID world, I think that was a glimmer of hope, a glimmer of success of the pandemic with this project, was that we really were able to increase access. So if in the future, if anyone's thinking of doing something like that, I think this is a perfect avenue to combine what we have learned is successful remotely and what we know is successful in person.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Katie. I know that some of our sites were really bummed about not being able to see people in person and interact and engage, but I kept thinking, but you're able to now access somebody across the state, which is fantastic. And through our summer institute, you know, just at the Herring Center, we were able to access people across the nation and hopefully, you know, bring them into this project as well as partners. And so it's been a really nice way to bring that professional collaboration together.
Oh, sorry, go for it, Mo.
Yeah, I was like, I'll definitely piggyback off of that. Just like with the meeting of the minds, for instance, some of these districts had no idea that the other existed. They had no idea that this school was a school or had a name, or that this district even had a district, and they got to meet one another, and a lot of their journeys and like their struggles and things that they were doing, they were having those similar situations in their school, and they were actually brought together in a way that they wouldn't have done if COVID wasn't a thing and we didn't have to overuse Zoom to kind of get this going. But it definitely was the silver lining that they now know each other. They know each other not only by their school name, but by their first names of who is doing what in what program, and they're connecting outside of us, where we're once the middleman. They have their own relationships, and they are mentoring each other and utilizing each other's resources and artifacts, something that they would have never done had they not been in this situation. So it's like the one silver lining of COVID. It was being able, like Katie and Cassie both said, was being able to connect and collaborate. And that's where that work comes in. If we're going to be inclusive, we have to collaborate. We have to be able to talk to one another and be on the same page of things. And so that is the one thankful thing for COVID, that this brought this ability and this access for everyone. So it's pretty great.
Yeah. Well, if anybody has any questions, feel free to just jump in now or share in the chat or email us later. And thank you all for coming. This has been so great to be able to share this information with others. I see Ryan Guzman's here, or somebody from the office. So hello, nice to see you. And I see a couple other familiar names. So just thank you so much, everybody, for being here. You know, at least thinking about inclusion, because that's where we start. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thanks to our presenters too.
Oh, thank you.